in collaboration with the Cyprus Mail. This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
Now that hotels here are open to local people, the Tourism Ministry is offering special discounts to encourage us to support our hotel industry.
The maximum room rate for any hotel to enter this scheme is €60 on a bed and breakfast basis. We actually cover 35% of that cost.
After last year's cancellation, the Pharos Chamber Music Festival is back, but with a few differences.
The Kukliak concerts will be open air in the courtyard of the Royal Manor House.
And also returning to the calendar, the St Paul's May Fair, again, with a little bit of a difference.
It's a market. We're doing it in a market form this year because of the restrictions and what we're legally allowed to do. But it's based on what we've done every year at the May Fair.
Things are looking up for the tourist industry in Cyprus. Pretty well every week we get a new list of which countries are moving up from red to orange or orange to green. And we've had quite a few flights coming into the island over the last couple of weeks. So it's welcome back to the programme to our Deputy Minister for Tourism, Savas Perdios. Savas, can you bring us up to scratch on where we are at the moment? Because it's been a pretty tough year or so for the hotel industry in particular, but also the related industries. And it does seem, are we seeing the light at the end of the tunnel?
Rosie, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me once again. It's always a pleasure to be here with you in this very informative and very lively show. Yeah, you're absolutely right that it's been a very, very difficult 15 months for the industry. It has been brought almost to its knees. Thankfully, we haven't had a lot of casualties, and you're right that things are starting to look a bit rosier at the moment. We've done a lot of preparatory work, both as a ministry but also as a sector. On the 1st of March, we opened up to the European Union. A lot of people were able to come here with testing based on the traffic light system. Then on 1st April, the same prerequisites for travel were given to non-EU countries. So basically from 1st April, we have been open to around 65 countries on the basis of testing according to the categorization of countries. And we continue to use a traffic light system depending on the epidemiological situation of a country. And there's been a new addition to that system in the last couple of weeks. We announced it beginning of May, and it came into effect on the 10th of May, that anybody flying from those 65 countries that we opened earlier and has been fully vaccinated, they can now travel to the island without the need for a test, and of course without the need for quarantine, even if they are close contacts of somebody who tests positive. So as a country, I think we've done our absolute best to facilitate in any way that we can travel to Cyprus. The feedback from our partners abroad has been very positive in light of that. And I feel that from the moment that we moved quarantines, from the moment that we facilitated people who have been vaccinated, from the moment that vaccination is not even a prerequisite and anybody can travel with the relevant tests, they feel that the framework is in place for travel to restart. I add to that recent announcements from the minister's cabinet where, local restrictions have finally been lifted. People can move around freely. People can also spend time in hotels, which was not the case for the last 6 months. So overall, the final details are now in place so that we can consider Cyprus a fully open destination, and there are some further openings happening very, very soon. The impact of this on tourism, well, we have seen already that these markets that we opened on 1st April, many of them have started traveling to Cyprus. I'm speaking particularly about Russia primarily, also Israel, Lebanon, the Gulf countries. We've already had an interesting number of arrivals from these countries, and the trend continues as we've moved into May. had our first arrivals from the Nordic countries at the beginning of this week. And a positive piece of news, although not entirely as positive as we had hoped, the UK has classified us in the orange category. It's not yet green, but it's still a category where traveling is allowed. So traveling to Cyprus from the UK for holidays is not illegal as it was a few weeks ago. So we see that as a positive sign of things to come. In general, and sorry for the long answer, yes, you're right, things are looking better, and hopefully by the end of this month we will have a very clear idea of how things are going to go going forward.
You did mention the fact that Cypriots had been banned from staying at hotels. That seemed to me a very strange lockdown in a sense, because we were here already. We had our necessary vaccinations or rapid tests, and if they were negative, we could do a lot of other things. It seemed very strange that the hotels were forbidden from hosting us at a time when we could go and have a meal in a restaurant at a hotel, but we couldn't go upstairs and sleep there.
Yeah, I mean, I have to be honest, it's something that was decided after advice from the epidemiological team. And, as a Ministry of Tourism, it's something that also hit us hard. You know very well that we've been trying to promote domestic tourism a lot since last year, not only on the promotional front so that people get to understand what beauties Cyprus has, but trying actively to promote this by covering 35% of the cost of accommodation in hotels. So it was a difficult time for us too. Anyway, I don't want to look back. The important thing is that from 10th May, locals and people who live here are also able to visit hotels, and I think this is also going to give a certain boost to the industry. Already there's a lot of interest for the domestic tourism scheme that our ministry has come up with. It used to run until the end of May, but now we've extended it until the end of November, with exception to the months of July and August. So it means that in around 10 days we will have an additional list of hotels available for June and the months of September, October, and November. I think this is going to be an extended list. Already 200 hotels had shown interest until the end of May, but I think now we will add at least another 100, and it's great to see that the people have enjoyed this scheme and that it has really supported not only tourism businesses but communities as a whole. So I'm quite optimistic that this is going to give us the push we need, or to give hotels and tourism businesses the breathing space they need to open up maybe a little bit earlier than they had expected.
So what support are you actually giving for local people going on holiday?
Well, it's on two fronts. First of all, the fact that we have made it absolutely compulsory that the maximum room rate for any hotel to enter this scheme is 60 euros on a bed and breakfast basis. So that's one very big positive thing for customers, that hotels are obliged to keep a rate of 60 euros, which I think is fantastic value for money if you think that normally maybe the prices now would have been maybe double that. So this is number one. And number two, we actually cover 35% of that cost. And it means that when checking out, the customer will be discounted by 35%. So the 60 euros then become around 40. The customer pays 40 euros and the ministry then covers the remaining 35%. So essentially people will be able to holiday from as little as 40 euros to any of the hotels that have put themselves into the scheme. And I think that's a great way to discover the island. It's a great way to take some short breaks here and there. And I'm very thankful for everybody's support and very hopeful that it will give the opportunity to many of us to see alternative sides of the island, alternative areas, and of course to get some well-deserved rest, because it's been a tough 15 months for everybody.
It certainly has. So we can expect to see a lot of people heading up to the mountains, out and down to the beaches, I guess, in the coming months. But you did say this is for May, June and then September onwards. So July and August, if you want to go away then, you're going to pay the full whack.
Yes, you are, because, Rosie, it's very important for us as well through this scheme to also support the strategy, the national tourism strategy of our ministry. And you and I have spoken about this many times, that we really want to extend the season. And it would be a little bit strange for us to do something that is only focused on the core summer months. So we've decided to extend it as much as we can, and with the budget that we have available, so that we are able to push the tourism season as far away from the summer as possible. So this is also a very important consideration. And we did not want to run the risk of running out of funds in the middle of the summer, whereas in the way we've done it now, it gives a nice extension to the season, both before and after, and it will help us as well as a ministry achieve our targets with regards to that front.
And of course, your other target, apart from getting more local people to holiday at home on the island, staycation, I think they call it, you've also got lots of different new ideas that we've spoken about on the programme before to get them out of the normal way of holidaying, new experience holidays. A very quick word about that to remind people.
Thank you, Rosie. I love that question. Well, we've been working very, very hard to create a route of authentic experiences across the island. It's around 400 kilometers and passes only from mountain and rural areas. This route, we've given it the name Heartland of Legends, the reason being that it focuses on the heartland of the island, and that it links each village and each experience with the other based on the legends of Cyprus. So this route is going to be available for launch at the beginning of September. We're totally excited about it because this is really the authentic side of the island. This is really the experiential side of the island, where people will be able to book online an experience of going to somebody's house, for example, see how local halloumi is made, or marmalade of some particular handicraft, get some training on that, taste, buy and take home. So we're in the process now of collecting all of these experiences, and once it starts, I think it will have a snowball effect, in the sense that many more businesses in those villages will want to include themselves in the route. And frankly, I think that it has the potential to really change the product of Cyprus over the next decade. I would love to see this route being full of thousands of experiences by the end of 2030. Because actually, Rosie, this is what visitors want right now. It's not just about going to the beach or staying in a hotel. I think, especially the younger generations, they are looking for something more meaningful, something more purposeful. And in my opinion, there is nothing more meaningful than immersing yourself in the local community, tasting the local products, taking part in local activities. And essentially, this is our vision for what tourism should be. We want tourism to be at the center of all these jobs, all these sectors of the economy in villages and rural areas. So, that's a very important step forward. We've also launched a new scheme recently, whereby we cover a very big proportion of the cost of weekend workshops. Workshops being gastronomy workshops or handicrafts workshops, and the prerequisite again is for these workshops to take place in rural and mountain areas, and we cover costs like the electricity or the raw materials, the time of the handicrafts person who is creating something, and the whole point is for these workshops to be free of charge for the customer. So by covering the cost of setting the workshop up for that particular day or weekend, people will come in to see it for free. They will be able to participate in an authentic experience again. They will be able to buy something local. So it's another step in the direction of creating authentic experiences on the island, so that we're able to disperse tourism as much as possible across the whole island. That's very, very important for us.
And the great thing, of course, with the whole of that is that it might hopefully keep some of the younger people in the more mountainous and rural areas instead of them all going down to the town. It might actually promote the continuation of our Cypriot culture.
That is absolutely the social aspect of our vision and of everything we're doing. As I said, we want to put tourism at the center of these jobs like this, whether it's farming, whether it's handicraft, whether it's creation of traditional products or local gastronomy products, and we feel that in this way it's a method or a way to support young persons' entrepreneurship, a female entrepreneurship, and we're very hopeful that by putting tourism at the center of these jobs, locals will see that yes, they are able to benefit by staying in that community, and that there are many ways to create revenue for yourself and your family in this way, especially now in the age of digitization, in the age of e-commerce. So it's the easiest thing in the world now to set up a small business in a small village, use your land to grow something, use your hands to create something, and then sell it not only locally to Cypriots or people who live here, not only to visitors from abroad who come to see the island, but you can also now sell it abroad by using e-commerce. So there's a lot of opportunity there, and yeah, you're right that this is the social aspect of what we're doing, and I would love to see this working towards that direction.
Well, I'm sure it will work, Savas. Always a pleasure talking to you. Very best of luck with the rest of the tourist season, and we'll keep our fingers crossed that we have no more spikes in the pandemic and no more red traffic lights very, very soon. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Rosie.
This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
As the restrictions are gradually eased and lifted, particularly the cultural services are getting back on track. They've been hit very hard during the pandemic, but the Pharos Arts Foundation has made a brave decision that this year's International Pharos Chamber Music Festival will go ahead. Joining us to tell us all about it is Garo Keheyan. Garo, so first of all, it was cancelled last year, wasn't it, when everybody went into lockdown? How difficult has it been to make that decision that now things seem to be getting back on track? You will go ahead this year.
Well, extremely difficult in a couple of words. We actually, until a week ago, we weren't very sure whether we would be able to proceed, but, you know, we've taken the plunge, we've taken a leap, and we're just hoping that the safety net will appear and that we will get an audience. It's vital we get a wonderful, a regular audience. There are a couple of new developments which I should emphasize, which might put people at ease. We're using the Royal Manor House, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and also Grove. But the important thing is that the Kuklia concerts will be open air in the courtyard of the Royal Manor House. So we'll be able to comply, with all the, restrictions and regulations that exist. So I think people should feel a lot more comfortable with the outdoor venue arrangements, which will be in place. And of course, the final concert will be in the Olive Grove, which is a magical setting in an ancient olive grove and pine forests next to a Natura 2000-year protected area. And people are overwhelmed by the beauty of the setting and the evening atmosphere there. So, yes, the decision, as I was going back, has been extremely difficult to make, but I have the backing of our board, and we've decided last minute, as I said, to go ahead. As you can imagine, the logistics are horrendous. Several of the musicians have had to cancel last minute because they have to go back into quarantine wherever they're coming from. But anyway, we've got 15 extraordinary musicians from all over the world. They are musicians who have phenomenal careers as soloists, and they play in the great concert halls of the world. And it's a privilege, I think, for us, to have them coming to Cyprus. And this festival is now been going for 20 years. And we hope that, 20th anniversary will be a big success.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because it should have been the 20th anniversary last year, of course. That must have been quite painful for you to have to cancel it, but we're back on track. Talk us through a little bit, if you will, Garo, about those 20 years, because I think we've talked about this pretty well every year since you started, and it has grown exponentially, hasn't it, since that first year?
Well, it's still a modest festival, I would say. But having said that, it is recognised, I think, throughout Europe as a rather special and unique festival. because of its quality. I mean, it's really exceptional, and I think the audiences who come year after year in the Royal Manor House in Kuklia, in that beautiful internal hall, the atmosphere is electric, it's ecstatic. Often the musicians love that exchange of energy. There's a tremendous energy that the festival generates every year. And, 20 years we did start with quite modest beginnings, obviously. We made the choice of doing it in this wonderful setting. And I think, over the years we've hosted some of the biggest names in classical music. Of course, Yu Wang comes to mind, and many, many other great, great pianists, wind players, cellists. This year, for example, we had a Misha Maisky here, some of your audience may recall, one of the world's great, great cellists, and he played in the Olive Grove 8 months ago in last September. And he loved it so much, he loved the energy and the atmosphere and the Cyprus audience that he's come back, he's coming back again. So he's participating in the festival and in the final concert in the Olive Grove. So we do attract, wonderful musicians. The festival has an international reputation now, and we're hoping gradually to increase the awareness. We have a wonderful, as I said, following in the Pharos area primarily, but people come from abroad. In fact, I just heard we have a family coming from Croatia who wants to be here, participate in the festival. So there are people coming especially from abroad, and we have our wonderful local audience. So this is where we're at.
The Royal Manor House is such a special venue, and I mean, just from the photographs, let alone hearing the music there, how is it going to be different being outside? Because the atmosphere inside that building is extraordinary.
Yes, you're right, and the acoustic also is superb, and it works. But I think atmospherically, I think the courtyard will be a quite stunning setting. It's lit up, as you know, in the evenings. All the arches are lit, the trees. So I think it will be equally successful. And I think I've tested the acoustic. We're putting the stage in a corner to the right of the entrance of the Manor House. So I have a feeling the acoustic will also be pretty good. So I think the atmospherics are going to be extraordinary, very, very beautiful. And I think the music will also be wonderful. So I have no fears that, an outdoor venue, because it's a protected courtyard, it'll be all right. Sometimes I hear that there are events, musical events, pop concerts, let's say, outside, among the ruins of the sanctuary. And that obviously would need amplification, and it's a different ballgame. But I think the courtyard is protected, and it'll be very comfortable, obviously, because sometimes it gets quite warm inside the main hall there. So I'm very, very much looking forward to this experience of having it outdoors.
Okay, very quickly, what about possible last-minute cancellations? You mentioned that some of the musicians are isolating and have had to cancel. If that happens again, how quickly can you, in a sense, replace them and keep the same programme?
No, I think the programme, obviously there are possibilities of last minute. It happens in every festival. But it was just a week ago we had a couple of cancellations, and we've immediately substituted them with some extraordinarily good musicians. We have this very prominent French violinist who stepped in and is joining us. So I think the chances of any changes now are absolutely minimal. 99% of the programme is in place, and the musicians are in place. The tickets are being bought, so I don't envisage any changes.
And presumably, because numbers will be to a degree limited, people need to get their tickets pretty sharpish. How do they do that?
Through our own office. They can buy through PayPal, through the internet, and all the normal channels of ticket purchase are available, I think.
So if people go to the Pharos Arts Foundation website, they'll find the links there for clicking on tickets. And how much are the tickets, Garo?
The tickets are €25, and for friends and supporters of the foundation, they're €20. And we are also offering, actually, I should mention, if people purchase all all 6 of the Kukla concerts. They pay for only 5 of the concerts.
So that is the 20th International Pharos Chamber Music Festival. It's taking place between May the 28th and June the 4th at the Royal Manor House in Kuklia near Paphos, and the last concert on June the 5th is at the Olive Grove in Delikipos. And also taking advantage of the easing of restrictions is St Paul's Anglican Cathedral in Nicosia. Tomorrow between 11 in the morning and 4 p.m. they're holding a mini market. We're joined by the Dean of the Cathedral, Jeremy Crocker. So Jeremy, what actually have you got on offer for people? Because this is going to be the first time that many of the congregation have actually met up for, over a year?
Yes. One of the reasons we're doing this is we do this sort of thing every year to raise funds and just have a wonderful day together. But also the cathedral is 40 years old. It was 40 years old last Saturday. It was hallowed on the 15th of May 1981, and we had a special service on Sunday, last Sunday, with the Archbishop to celebrate that. And I was hoping to tie the two together, but we've moved, because of the restrictions, I've moved it on a week. So we've got a market where folk can come and buy some nice bric-a-brac. They can have a cup of coffee and a piece of cake. They've got a chance to win some lovely hampers. It's just like an old market, an old traditional English market, which I know folk have come to at the cathedral over many, many years, and we're trying carefully to recreate exactly the same next Saturday.
So it's not your annual May Fair as such, then?
It's an adapted May Fair. It is an adapted May Fair. It's a market. We're doing it in a market form this year because of the restrictions and what we're legally allowed to do. But it's based on what we've done every year, the May Fair.
So when you say the restrictions, are you limited to the number of people who can be there at any one time? It is going to be, I suppose, in the open air in the Cathedral Gardens.
The reason I pushed it on a week is we're less limited. We are allowed a lot more people to come this Saturday than we would have done last Saturday. Last Saturday the restrictions were very tight. This Saturday coming, a lot more people can come, and people can come and relax and enjoy themselves. Most of it's outside in the open air. There are a few bits in the hall, but not a lot. And folk can just relax and be together. And some folk I've not seen properly for a very long time. So I'm hoping they'll consider coming, and it'd be lovely to see them.
And what about if they're sitting down having their tea and cakes and so on and so forth? Have you got to be careful how many are at each table?
Yes, and we'll adhere to that, and there'll be umbrellas and tables will be outside as shady as possible. Yes, no, we'll adhere to all the rules and regulations, but overall we're allowed a lot more people this Saturday than, say, last Saturday we're allowed, so I've pushed it on a week. But my aim was to tie it in with the 40th anniversary of the cathedral being hallowed as a cathedral. The church is over 125 years old, but as a special cathedral for the Diocese of Cyprus and the Gulf, it's 40.
So tell us a bit about the difference that makes, being a cathedral as opposed to a church.
If ever you go into the cathedral, it's the tiniest little place ever, but if you go right to the end, just behind the altar, there's a special seat there, and that's where the bishop has his seat. And so when a bishop becomes a bishop, they become a bishop in a cathedral, and it's where they sit. He has 2 seats, actually. He has one in Bahrain, a cathedral in Bahrain, and one in Cyprus. And at the moment, he's Archbishop over the province of Jerusalem in the Middle East, which includes Iran, Syria and Jordan, Iraq, the United Arab Emirates, Yemen. It includes a big part of the Middle East, and he's currently the Archbishop, the senior bishop over all of it. It was part of the Diocese of Europe years ago, but now it's its own diocese, its own separate jurisdiction, and it's where the bishop has his seat.
A lot of people probably didn't know that, I certainly didn't, as to what the significance of it being the Anglican Cathedral in Nicosia and, as you say, of the Diocese of the Gulf. So, what have you got on offer in terms of the food? It's not just tea and cakes, is it?
Hamburgers, hot dogs, biryani, there's tea and cakes you can buy, there's ice creams, and spring rolls for folk to enjoy.
It sounds like it's going to be fun from 11 o'clock in the morning until 4 p.m. It will be warm, so wear hats, but they're providing as much shade as they can. At St Paul's Anglican Cathedral in Nicosia, that's tomorrow, celebrating 40 years of it being hallowed as a cathedral, and of course a chance for people to get together and meet up with folk they probably haven't seen for many, many months. Jeremy Crocker, Dean of St Paul's, thanks for joining me. Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.